we're really focusing here on customer value in the supply chain. It's a big deal because I don't know about you, but I am an American, and here's a reality of the world in the United States, as well as most of the entire world that has some measure of wealth among its citizens. The truth is, I want it nice, and I want it now. Okay, so that being said, and the worst part is I'm a Californian. I'm even worse. So that being said, the whole aspect of customer value, we pretty much we want it just like that. And if we doesn't show up on our front doorstep within 12 hours, we start looking at our watch. Well, actually, now our phone, because we look at our phones instead of our watches, because most of us don't have watches. And so the reality we're looking at is, where is it? Where is it? Oh, yeah, that's right. It's going to take a whole 24 hours to get here. I can't believe it takes 24 hours to get here. So we look on the aspects of now I want exactly what I want. That has the buttons in the wrong spot. I wish they would fix it right over here. I'm going to go shopping for something else. You pull your phone and you go shopping on your phone and you order what you want. And then you don't care about returning the other one. Yeah, that's part of the whole aspect of customer value. We want it in today's supply chain. It's a big deal. You need to listen closely to the heartbeat of your individual client as to what they're doing and pay attention to the feedback. We pay attention to how many stars we get. We avoid Yelp at all things because Yelp, if you sit down and you don't pay their fee, miraculously, they let complaints sit there against you and everything in the process. So you always got to make sure you either pay the fee or ignore it. It's one or the other. In the past few years, we emphasize a lot of customer satisfaction, and we're looking at some of the aspect of sometimes we're changing our methodologies overall on the retail end of it, looking as to what is the customer saying. Is the customer always right? Well, maybe sometimes they aren't. So we're looking at the different aspects of it, but at the end, we're looking for the customer to have satisfaction, to have good reviews on a regular basis. We need to understand our current customers. There's an interesting book I encourage you to take a look at, and I don't agree with a lot of his life philosophy, but it's written by Timothy Ferriss. It's called The 4 Hour Workweek. One thing that I picked up in there, he says, I was working 55 to 75 hours every week. I was becoming dog tired in the aspect of his vitamin supplement company. So he really was frustrated, but he found out that his frustrations, you remember the old Pareto principle of the 80-20 rule? Okay, 20% of the people create 80% of the problem. Well, that's really true in just about every business, no matter where you're at. So he got fed up with this customer. So they classified them as A, B, C, D. The A's, you can't do anything wrong. And they'll always be loyal to you. You love them. Treat them with super fabulous dignity. The B's, they're there primarily because they're getting what they perceive as a good value. The C's, you don't really know if they care or not. They're just there but for price. And the D's are nothing but a pain. He started getting rid of his D's. His D's after they would complain. He says, you know what? Why don't you go buy from somebody else? Well, all right. So you do take care. I wish you the very best. Click, and he'd hang up on him. Well, a couple of the D's all of a sudden started saying, well, I really want to do business with you. So by the time it was done, some of his D's converted into B's and A's, but he dumped a lot of them, and all of a sudden he found his life got better. So pay attention, especially to your most valuable customers. Treat them spectacularly, but treat them all spectacularly, but make certain that you're paying attention to the people that really are the true people that are driving your business. Of course, focus on the customer value that promotes a broader look for the company offerings and its customer. So a couple questions that we have to ask. Does the customer value lower prices or superior customer services? You really can't have both. So low prices, well, Walmart is known for everyday low prices. They really have pretty good customer service too, but sometimes it's not exactly what you want to in the aspect of, are you buying this or are you buying this over here? You already know you're going in to pay the low price. You're there for the value you're going to get. You're already expecting to have a different level of quality than you would go into a high-end retail store. Does the customer prefer next day delivery or many choices? Well, the idea of having a menu with 5 different things, next day delivery, $7.99. Okay, the 3-day delivery, $5.99. And then whenever we feel like it, free. Whenever we feel like maybe next month, you have different options out there. So next day or choices, most of us like to make choices. But to do that, you have to figure out what each choice is going to cost and make sure you know how a methodology to add it to the bill. Does the customer prefer to purchase with a specialized store or from a mega store that provides one-stop shopping opportunities? You know what? I don't know about you. I tend to go to the mega store, but when I'm doing home improvement, here's the simple truth in home improvement. If you're doing plumbing, no matter what happens, you're going to go back to the store 2 or 3 times. I don't know about you. I have no gifts whatsoever when it comes down to repairs around the house. But here's something I do find out. I'd rather go to the local hardware store where I walk and say, hey, dude, I got this problem. Can you help me go find it? And he says, it's over here in aisle 7, the middle of the aisle. Well, let me take you over there. He takes me over there. When I go into the giant box store, Home Depot or Lowe's, I'm sure wandering around 5 different aisles. I finally get somebody, well, it's not my department over there, but Herb's over there. I'll give a call. So they call Herb, and Herb shows up 5 minutes later, and they get, I don't need that. Well, if I have a plumbing problem, I go to my local Ace Hardware, not the big box store. I have different needs at that moment. Sometimes I do shop at the big box stores, but my preference is to go to the small one. I know I'm going to pay a little bit more, but man, I can get out of there faster with better service. Does the customer prefer choosing from a large menu of similar items or a fixed small menu of low price products? It just depends as to what the topic is, what you're shopping for, what they're looking at. Sometimes people look on these teeny tiny little niche products, they're out over there and they don't care about how long it takes. They want to have that thing. It just depends. You need to pay attention to your customer as to who they are, what they're looking for. I have a couple products that I buy from a European supplier. Okay, I deal with one from Greece, I deal with one from Spain, I deal one from China. I even have one I'm working with in Ukraine right now. So that being said, you're looking as to the teeny tiny niche as to I want this thing. And you're going to focus in, and it doesn't matter because you're focusing in as to exactly what you want. Critical questions for any business. The customer should be the driving force behind your business strategy and your performance measures all the time. The supply chain needs to be considered for any product sales or business strategy. Pay attention to a lot of things. Some people did not. Sometimes you get this Dell's direct-to-consumer business model versus HP's retail strategy. Dell creates a product just for the customer. You go online, go click, click, click. It creates a computer just for you. It's a little bit slower to get there than walking in the store and buying off the shelf, but you're getting exactly what you want. So I have a computer that I'm recording this on. I custom made it just for me. It's not a Dell product. Somebody else has mirrored that aspect of it, but they are using the Dell's direct-to-consumer business model. The downfall of Kmart is attributed in part to the supply chain strategy that it wasn't consistent with the business value proposition. Kmart didn't know what it was. And so as a result, because it didn't know what it wasn't quite a discount person. They said to us, we want to be the discount store. And then all of a sudden they brought in a higher end fashion area in the aspect of housewares. Well, it didn't fit the business model. Kmart didn't know what it was. Somebody came in and bought it and drove it right into the ground. And this giant, huge retail company that a lot of us grew up on is now part of history, one that Gen Z will never see or hear about except in a quote like this. Kmart failed because of the fact it didn't pay attention to who is its customer and what did the customer value. This is a big deal. Make certain you know what your customer values, or you too may be looking for another job, just like all the employees at Kmart, especially those executives who missed it completely. Operation strategy, you want to deploy one centered on value proposition, define the customer value as the way customers perceive the entire company offerings. Is this cheap? Is it high end? You know, I fall back on a beer company and I don't drink beer. I don't even advocate beer whatsoever. But the reality is the old Miller High Life. Miller was a cheap beer. Some people even called it a skunky beer, whatever that may be on the East Coast. They rebranded themselves to be a high-end beer when they opened operations on the West Coast. They says, Miller, the champagne of bottled beer. And you know what? They jacked the price up to match the audience. And all of a sudden, then it regrew its brand from changing the bottles, changing the packaging, changing all its advertising, grew on the West Coast, and then went back over to the East Coast. Brilliant marketing strategy. The beer was the same. So it doesn't matter, but it was the perception. People wanted a higher end beer. So they were going after the beer drinking market, but it wasn't just the average beer drinker, it's the champagne of bottled beer. Well, champagne and beer are not even measurable between the two of them, except for the fact that they carved out their niche market as to we cater to the ones the beer drinkers that have higher taste. It worked. So pay attention to that. Taking a position along each one of the customer value propositions defines your business strategy. Pay attention to brand, look at product innovation, keep up with it, watch your competitors all the time like a hawk, because really this whole thing of innovation is part of capitalism. We like to have innovation, and whoever is on the cutting edge, they win an awful lot of customers over to them. So pay attention to that cutting edge. And if you can't be there all the time, but watch if your competitor steps over too far and they find out the cutting edge is the bleeding edge, they get cut in the process, you may want to be careful in that aspect too. Product selection, availability, price, and brand define who you are. Make certain that you have a good brand name that people are attracted to. Value added services, add things onto your services that have value that the customers want, can jack the price up a little bit. Relationships and experiences. Advertising is not enough to sustain value impressions. Know the customer you want, and they can continually create value impressions for your customers. Take care.